And what we're going to cover over the next hour, or just, sorry, 2 hours, is we are going to think about how to build and test ideas. We're going to think about what is an MVP, or minimum viable product, how to build your MVP, and we're actually going to introduce you to a whole bunch of cool tools to build websites, to build apps without writing any code, to build online communities, build your first brand, all sorts of stuff. We're also going to explain how to build a community and how to launch your product into it. I'm going to be leading much of the session, so Laura, I'll ask you to check in on the chat, and as ever, I'd encourage all of you to write in the chat, ask questions, share comments, feedback, and Laura will be checking in on that throughout.
It's going to be a pretty practical session, so do comment as and when you have questions, because I will keep an eye on it, and I'll make sure either I will ask the questions, or if I think it's something that might be relevant for everybody, then obviously we can just bring it to the table and have a discussion about it.
Absolutely. Okay, so first question for you guys, right in the chat. What, now that you've applied, what's the next step for your idea? What are you planning to do next? Laura, as the responses come in, if you want to pull out some of them.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know if my computer's slow. I haven't had anything just yet. Oh, here we go. They're coming in. Okay. We've got speak with suppliers, prototyping and proof of concept, working on developing a prototype. Yeah, product development. Adam wants a mobile app and a marketing plan. Yeah, excellent. This one could be really helpful for you then, Aswin, because we're going to go through mobile apps as well. Lots of people saying prototype. We've got a couple more people coming in there. Working on getting social media engagement. Yes, Mia, we're going to talk a little bit about that as well, and not necessarily specifically the social media side of things, but obviously communities, creating communities, and sort of pushing yourself out. That's sort of one thing that we do cover. Developing the MVP, back end of a mobile app. Yep, brilliant. GUI and MVP. Robin says expanding the team, and then again lots more prototyping. So yeah, all on the right sort of lines. Thank goodness.
Sounds like you're all in the right place.
Yeah.
So at this point, this is the moment you really take a deep breath in, because it's where theory, all of that planning, writing of applications, thinking, ideating becomes real. And this is the hard stuff, but it's also the fun, creative, imaginative stuff. So where we've got to so far, we've looked at your user needs through the ideation process, through customer development. We've looked at your value proposition and what value you're offering to those users. And in the last session, we looked at what your product features could be based on your user needs. And now we're going to look at how to build, test, and refine ideas, and then all of the steps after that to launching your product. Laura, do you want to lead us on this question?
Absolutely. So again, in the chat, we just want to kind of gauge a little bit about what you guys are thinking in terms of, you know, the process and where it goes next. So if you can all just answer this question, how long will it take you to build a version 1 of your idea? This isn't the final thing, obviously. This is literally just enough to be able to put in front of the judges, enough to be able to put in front of your customers. So how long do you think it's going to take you? Felicia says 2 to 3 months. We've got a couple of people saying a month. Yeah, 3 months, month. 3 to 4 months, 1 to 2. Yeah, okay. Over a year. Okay, we've got one person saying over a year. 6 months. Julian already has a prototype. Fair play, well done.
Okay, so we're getting a whole spread of different answers here, from maybe 1 month through to 1 year or more. And this is the first point that we really want to challenge you guys on. So to bring this to life, back in 2015, I went out to Boulder in Colorado to join a startup program. And we met this amazing guy called Tom Chi. He ran Google X, which is the innovation part of Google, and he designed and built the first ever Google Glass, which is one of the most brilliant piece of kind of hardware and software engineering of the last 10 years or so. And he asked us this question: how long do you think it took us to build the first version of Google Glass? And like you guys have said, we said 6 months, 2 years, 1 year, 3 months. And he smiled and he said, no, it took us 2 hours. And he explained how. But first of all, he said, what value are we looking to share with our users? And the premise was that they were going to take, you know, a pair of glasses, some hardware, and turn it into a computing device. So he said, okay, well, that will mean potentially using hand gestures instead of a mouse. So let's attach a mouse on some string to a coat hanger behind us. And let's, you know, attach an old computer tablet to the front of some glasses. And then let's go out and test things with our users. What color do people respond to? What color gives people headaches? How do people operate with their hands such that they don't get tired moving their hands the whole time? All of these tests, they took them out to the office, Google offices and beyond, and they spoke to hundreds of people in that same afternoon. And suddenly they had all of this incredibly rich feedback, but actually still kind of delivering the essence of what that product would go on to become. So this tees up our next question, which is, how much money do you think you will need for that first version of your product? Write in the chat. I think Dan and Belle, we got a few people in the lobby waiting to come in.
Yeah, lots of people are coming in and saying, well, we've got a wide range. A few people have said £0. Someone said 15 to 20k, 80 to 100, 10k, £1,000, £2,000. No cash, but time is money. Very good point. 4 grand. That's very specific. I love that. 20. So, yeah, so we've got a wide range again.
I always love asking this question because we do get a really wide range of answers. And our next challenge to you guys is to think, what can you do in a weekend or less for £0? What can you achieve? Now, in 2023 is probably the best time in history to be an entrepreneur because there are so many tools available to do cool stuff for almost nothing at all. And we're going to show you some of those things today. Okay, Laura, next question, over to you.
So this one's an interesting one. Now, for me, I'm for those who maybe don't know, if you haven't seen me on any of the previous sessions, I am a business coach and I specialize in helping people to start and scale businesses. So hopefully, obviously, in a very good position to be able to help here. And one of the things that is a really big factor, which nobody really considers when they're starting their businesses. They jump straight into all of the specifics. They want to create the MVP. They've got this brilliant idea. You know, they think it's going to be the next Google, and they just want to get going. But in actual fact, there's a huge mindset sector to this. And there's a huge part of this that's just ultimately going to stop a lot of people from moving forward. So I do an exercise which it's called limiting beliefs, and it talks specifically around you know, you might have this brilliant idea, but are those doubts starting to creep in? Maybe somebody says something, or you get some feedback from somebody that you know and love. And as much as we love our family and friends, sometimes they're not the most helpful. And they might give feedback like, oh gosh, that sounds like hard work, or, you know, are you really going to be able to do that on top of your degree? Or, you know, they start giving you all these little kind of niggles, and it's whether it triggers a limiting belief. And a limiting belief is actually something that stems ultimately back to childhood. It's a decision that you've made as a child that has then become a story that you tell yourself throughout life. So, for example, A lot of people that I've worked with perhaps have had limiting beliefs around money. And so they might say something along the lines of, money is hard to make. And if that is a belief that you hold, you're ultimately going to start living out that belief. So you're going to make it a lot harder. Money is not going to come to you very easily because you're not expecting it to. And so you make life harder than you think it's going to be. So and that might stem from seeing your parents struggle, for example, or it might stem from just a single comment that somebody made, and everything after that has just compounded this idea that, yeah, it is hard to make money, isn't it? And it is hard to do a business, and it is going to take me a long time and cost me a lot to get my MVP going, and all these sorts of different things. So it's obviously a very, very big topic that we can't necessarily cover in huge, huge detail today, but it's just something that we wanted to bring to your attention, because if you do find yourself in this position where, you think you've got this brilliant idea and you get to this stage and then suddenly it's, oh, but it's a lot of work, I've got to commit, it's going to cost me thousands, the product's going to take a while to create, I don't have the time. Ask yourself whether that's really genuinely true for whatever it is that you are creating, or whether this is a limiting belief that stems from somewhere in your early childhood that is ultimately stopping you from moving forward. And in terms of dealing with that, obviously, again, it's a big, big topic, but just being able to notice it and recognize it in its first instance is a step forward. And then at least when you do hear these little voices in your head saying, this is going to be a lot of work, or can I actually really do this? You can stop yourself and you can say, actually, yes, I can, rather than succumbing to the inner voice and to the limiting belief. So just a little bit of an interlude there, just on a bit of mindset to hopefully help you guys out and push you forward where we can.
Sure. Thanks so much, Laura. This is so important because all of us at some point in our life have thought something isn't possible because of something within us. Yeah. Confidence, lack of funding. I'm not a CTO, I can't build an app, or I don't have enough experience, or whatever it is. So today we encourage you to put all of that on the shelf and think, actually, what is possible and what can you do? So to think about MVPs, for those of you who haven't come across the acronym, it means minimum viable product. That means, like with Tom Chi's Google Glass, what is the quickest, cheapest, dirtiest way to provide value to your users and start testing those ideas? So at the top of my screen here, I love this example. Let's say the value I want to create is to get my users from point A to point B. The top example, I start with a wheel, then two wheels, and then a chassis, and then a body, and then finally all of the electronics and mechanics and engines, etc. to build my car. But what happens is that might take 3 years, it might take 5 years, and I've suddenly spent, probably millions of pounds, built a factory, hired all of these people, and then I take it out into the world, and no one likes my car, or actually we can no longer use petrol cars because the government policy has come in to encourage EVs or whatever. Whereas in the bottom example, I start with a skateboard. I can get one off Gumtree for 20 quid, then a scooter, bicycle, motorbike, and then finally a car. And I'm testing how my users interact with my product and deliver that value of getting them from A to B. And this, at its core, is what an MVP is all about. And who better to hear from but Reid Hoffman, who founded the mega social platform LinkedIn. He says, if you're not embarrassed by the first product version of your product, you've launched too late. So again, to this point that Laura talked about fear and, trying to be perfect and finish everything to the best possible ability before you launch it. We encourage you to be 1% perfect and get out into the world and start testing. Okay, a case study about this. I'm sure most of you have heard of Dropbox, if not used it. Back in 2013, I think it was, maybe 2015, there was a big shift to cloud storage. And Dropbox saw an opportunity here, but they knew it's very expensive to build a cloud storage platform. They wanted to get into Y Combinator, one of the best, most successful startup programs in the world. They've built Coinbase, Airbnb, Stripe, etc. So instead, they did something, rather than build the product, they did something really smart to test that people wanted it. They went out on Reddit, on Quora, and all sorts of different social platforms with a really cool animated promo video explaining how Dropbox would work in the future. And it was wildly popular, and 100,000 people signed up to say, we are super interested in this. Once you launch it, we want to know more. So rather than going to Y Combinator and saying, we've got a beautiful product ready to go, they say, we don't have a product, but we tell you what, we've got 100,000 people ready and waiting to use the product. Give us the money and we'll build it, and we'll prove that this is going to be successful. So pretty powerful story. And there are all sorts of different ways of doing this. So to talk you through different types of MVP in a whistle-stop tour, the first is called a smoke test. And this is where you run a campaign, Google Ads, Facebook, whatever it might be, to drive people onto your landing page. So a landing page is a basic version of a website, and you can get people to sign up, just like Dropbox did, to prove that they're interested. Tick. That is really good data, factual data that proves that they're interested in what you're doing. Laura, next one.
Yeah, the next one is Kickstarter, which I assume that a lot of people here hopefully have heard of. So it's a crowdfunding campaign to basically test the appetite of your potential market. And of course, if it's successful, you can then use the money to build version 1 of your product. So I did a little bit of Googling earlier just to see if I could find some of the most interesting Kickstarter campaigns. And I found a really brilliant website that actually shows you some of the most successful ones. Because remember, with Kickstarter, something like this, you know, you're there to garner a little bit of interest and see if you can not only you know, get people interested in what you're doing, but put their money where their mouth is as well. And they're ultimately paying for the product before you've even manufactured or started to work on it. So some of the most famous, for example, I don't know if anyone knows Oculus, which is the sort of gaming and technology virtual reality headsets. So the Oculus Rift was actually funded by Kickstarter, and they were ultimately only looking for $250,000 and ended up raising over $2.4 million in order to start that one. So that is a fantastic way of being able to know that not only is it as popular as you hoped it would be, but in fact incredibly more so. Another one was the fidget cube. I don't know if anyone's seen those. It's kind of like obviously a little cube where you can kind of flip buttons and move things around, and it's meant to be very, very good for you know, keeping concentration levels and all these sorts of different things. And again, they only went in for $15,000 and they came out with $6.46 million. So it's a really good example of how you can gauge interest, but also gain some funding as well, and before you've even started to manufacture, you know, piece number 1.
So thanks, Laura. This is really important because basically this is about de-risking all of that expensive product development. So you don't spend a penny until you can prove there are people out there who want your Oculus, which is, you know, no mean feat to build one of those. So have a think about that, especially, you know, if you're building complex hardware and all of that stuff. So next one is called a concierge MVP. So completing your service manually to generate ideas and test demand. So an example here is Unishoots, which is one of the startups that went through our startup program at King's. They were building a marketplace to bring videographers to corporates who needed video. And they were like, oh, we want to build an app. Sorry, dog in the background. But instead of building an app, which costs money, they just set up a WhatsApp group. And they brought together tons of videographers ready to work. And then when they went in to pitch to the corporates, they said, we can find you a brilliant videographer in 20 minutes. They got the brief, they sent out a group message to these videographers, and they had all of these people coming back saying, here's our pitch, here's what we would charge, and these are the dates I am available. And they proved there was demand. Next one, Wizard of Oz. Now, I love this story. Wizard of Oz, just like in the film, you fake the features that are supposed to be automatic or technical and do them manually behind the scenes. So some of you might have come across a brilliant book called Delivering Happiness. It's by the founder of Zappos, called Tony Hsieh. So Zappos have gone on to be one of the biggest e-com sites in the world, selling shoes. But he tells the story about how it happened. So back when he was starting out, he thought, well, I think people in the future won't buy shoes on the high street. They're going to buy them online. But no one was doing this. So he did something really smart. He went to all of the retailers in his local area and he said, guys, I've got a proposition for you. I am going to sell your shoes on my website, and every shoe that I sell, I'm going to give you the money. So he took photos of the shoes and put them on his website. And the retailers were like, whoa, this is win-win. Why would we not sign up? But of course, what happened is that Tony Hsieh proved how many people would want to buy online because it was quicker, cheaper, easier. And he got all of these people to sign up as users. And then he said, thanks very much. Okay, we're going to set up all of the supply chain and start selling the shoes ourselves. And it became massive. Okay, next one is more of a simple concept, a single feature product. Just launch with a single or limited set of features just to get things going. Buffer, you're a social media scheduling platform, just launch with one simple feature at the first time round, but they were getting out there, getting user testing done and getting traction. And then the last, which we're going to look at in a bit more detail later, is no-code technology. So this is a big thing. There's been an explosion in these platforms recently, which is basically platforms that let you build fully functioning apps or websites completely for free and without writing a single line of code. And this, for all of you out there, like me, who are non-technical people, you can do incredible stuff. So how does this look in reality? Over the last few months, we've been using various different examples to bring to life what we're teaching you. And one of them is an example food waste app. And we're going to explain how you can MVP a food waste app. So to think about what we've already done by this stage, our user needs. Well, we're going to work with cafes and restaurants, and they need additional revenue. And they also want to reduce emissions and increase social impact. Whereas the consumers want to reduce their household food bills. They want convenience and reduced time, things close to their home, and they want to feel a connection with their community. And so our value proposition is to rescue unsold food, to save it from going to waste and reduce our users' food bills. So pretty simple concept. Some of you in this situation might think it's going to be an app. That app might cost you 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. How can we get there quicker, faster, and cheaper? So thinking about the example MVPs we've just looked at, here are a few examples going from simple with few features all the way through to complex and multiple features. So in these boxes, you have the type of MVP, the outcomes from that test, and some of the features it might include. So step one, a landing page, a basic website. You can use a platform we'll look at in a moment called Card. This is a smoke test. You're testing signups. You can look at how many users you get on the back of that. And what your users see is your value proposition, maybe an explanation video. It's very simple. You could build one of these probably in an hour. Next up, getting a little bit more involved, but still very basic, a WhatsApp group, like the Unishoots example. But this lets you test interactions, active users, people referring the WhatsApp group onto other people. The features, you could list photos of unsold food, discounts, and chat. So you're still delivering that value to both sides, the retailers and the users. Next up, a weekly newsletter. You can use a platform called Substack to make this work very easily, and it's free. You can test click-through rate, so number of people clicking on content on your newsletter, subscribers, referrals, how many people want to read your newsletter, and the features, a list of unsold food, discounts from retailers, whatever it might be. Next, getting more complex, you could build a community. And surprise, surprise, there's a platform where you can do this without writing any code. It's called Mighty Networks. We'll look at it in a moment, but this is your Wizard of Oz MVP. You could build a forum, a list of suppliers, courses on how to reduce carbon emissions or save money, and you can measure your active users, referral rates, more and more different bits of data to evidence that there is demand for your product. Now on to a more complex one, which is, my laptop stops crashing, a no-code app. So you can build in here now user ratings and quality management. You can geolocate suppliers. You can take payments through the app and measure revenue, active users, referrals, so much stuff. And you're getting so close to your final product. But actually, you've barely spent any time or money by this point, and you've moved past. Then lastly, your full app, which is your final product. So hopefully this can give you an example of how you can segment your product development to help save you all of that time and money, but keep testing your value all the way through. Okay, so now we're going to dig into a few of these different tools. So over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to be showing you a whistle-stop tour over a few different tools. So the first one is called Card. There are tons of tools to build simple websites, but Card is one that we particularly like. And you're going to be sent these slides later with these instructions on it. So no need to follow now, but I will show you what this looks like. So here is my Card account. 1 second. So this is what Card looks like. So here, sorry, I'll just bring up the homepage of Card. So when you sign up, you land on this page here, and if you click on choosing starting point, it will take you through to a few different template options for landing page or a website, etc. And I have made one for you earlier to bring this to life. This is one called Cycle. This is very, very basic, but here I've got my brand name, and here it just says enter your name and email to begin your cycle experience. So I can capture users' emails. I can write Ed Halliday, include my email and submit. But there's tons of other stuff you can do here. So using this plus button, you can add an element. And the way that Card works, you should be able to see on my screen that there are little dotted lines around each section. You basically add what are called containers, which are like blocks on the page. So I can add an element with this plus sign. And let's say a video, I want to add a video. And down here, I can click upload and upload a promo video that maybe I've made for Cycle. And I can move it around, it's all drag and drop, so I can move it further up. I could also add some more text. So let's say here I want to write, oh, what's happened? In the text here, about Cycle, we help distribute e-bikes. Oh, excuse the spelling. Across London. So very, very simple. You can add timers, galleries of photos, audios, all sorts of different stuff. And you can also edit the background. So I have uploaded a very boring but kind of instructive picture of some mountains, nothing to do with cycles at all, but I'd probably want to change that to show some cyclists, for example. And I can also see what it looks like on mobile. And even better, when I click on the top right, I can very quickly click publish. And then if I just click publish here, it will literally publish that website live immediately. You can build a card website in under an hour for free. Then you can evolve it and buy your own website domain here. You can do all sorts of different stuff, but we encourage you to get on the site, check it out, see how it works, and play around with it. Now, next up, actually, Laura, do you want to, should we pause there and see if there are any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't had any through the chat at the minute, but does anybody have any questions at this point? No, it doesn't look like it. No.
Okay.
No. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Okay. So you'll find the instructions here on how to build your landing page.
So just very quickly, Paolo has said that cycle doesn't appear in Google. So I don't think that you actually published it, did you, Ed? You just covered over the thing. So it wouldn't appear in Google because we haven't actually published it.
Yeah.
I was just trying to show you as an example.
Yes.
We have got a couple of questions, actually, if you've got a minute, Ed.
Yeah.
So Aswin has said, how many should we build, basically?
How many landing pages? Excellent question. Well, it's kind of like how long is a piece of string? You know, start with one, but there might be multiple versions that you want to test. So testing different types of copy, how you present your value proposition, testing different brands or color palettes, ways of explaining what you're doing, calls to action. So, you know, how you capture emails on the website. You can build as many as you like, but as always, start small, get your first one out there and see what happens.
And is this only for testing, or can you monetize at this point? So this one, that was from Nikita. I would just say this is a landing page. So you're not necessarily going to be able to monetize a landing page unless you're going straight into the sale of something, which I'm assuming that is an option for you to build in. But we've used it as an example as to how to get people onto your email list, for example, or to garner interest in the product or the service itself. Mm-hmm. Have you got anything to add to that one, Ed?
Yeah, so this is your version 0.1 of your website. Card, as Laura says, is largely for landing pages. If you want to build something more complex, then you might want to use other website builders. There's tons of these. Strikingly, Squarespace, Wix, they all have templates and actually AI-powered website builders, and you can build e-commerce websites, again, very, very quickly. But Card is your one that I would recommend to get out to your audience really, really fast. You can show off a website to your mates in 60 minutes, honestly, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Afra has said, is the domain purchased at a slightly higher price through Card? So is there any benefit in going through Card or having to go through separate?
I can't comment on that. I don't know. They're largely pretty equivalent. I use hover.com to buy domains. I buy are between $10 and $30 a year. You can shop around.
And final question for the minute. Would you say that Card is a better alternative website option for web presence? And does it gather the data for subscriptions?
So Card, there are lots of different options. Card is one. There's Unbounce. There's all sorts of different landing page options. It's the one we wanted to share today. It does let you capture signups and registrations, and it captures all of the data. And we're not going to go into it now, but here on this slide, we actually walk you through how to embed Typeform onto the website with a little snippet of code, which you don't write, you just copy paste. And then that helps you better capture email signups and potentially do market research. Who are you? Where do you live? How old you are, etc. Okay. Any more, Laura, or are we good to move on?
No, good to move on now.
Cool. Okay, so now just really a bit of a whistle-stop tour through a few different tools. So if you're looking to use a newsletter, tons of people are doing newsletters these days and making money from them. You can create a Substack account. So Substack looks a little bit like this. So here's my Substack. You can do tons of different stuff on here. These are some newsletters that I've subscribed to, but if I click this big orange plus button, I can create posts, threads, podcasts, videos. I can look at my numbers of subscribers, etc. It costs nothing to get started on Substack. And even better, and unlike tools like MailChimp, you can post your newsletter, for example, onto LinkedIn and say, hey, here's Ed's Future of Work newsletter. Click on this link and sign up. So you can share a link that lets people directly sign up to your newsletter. And as you build your user base, you could potentially sell ads via your newsletter. You can do affiliate marketing. You could run events that could be paid for. You could limit some of the content on the newsletter, so it's kind of freemium, and say, subscribe for £10 a month to unlock the premium content. There's a whole bunch of ways that you can actually monetize a newsletter. And going back to our example of the food waste app, you could send a daily newsletter or a weekly newsletter saying, here are your local retailers that have food going to waste, snap them up now. And you list 10 food items, for example. Very simple. Then online communities. Now, this is a favorite topic of mine because I believe the people who build communities most effectively are the startups that are going to win in the 2020s. Because if you can build a captive community, you can work with them, you can sell to them, you can grow them and expand that network in all sorts of interesting ways.
Ed, just before we go deeply into online community, Danielle's got a very quick question about the Substack and Card and linking them. So do you know if there is an easy way to sort of sync the emails that are gathered through Card with Substack?
So on Substack, you can import your emails. So it would be a static upload. There would be ways to create a link between the two. That's slightly more technical, but you could use tools like Zapier. So Zapier, so you can automatically sync them. But when you're getting started, doing stuff manually is okay. It can end up taking more time than it's worth setting up really slick integrations. But yes, it is possible.
And it depends on how many people you've got signing up as well. Like if you suddenly start to get hundreds and hundreds, then it's probably worth your time to start linking those. But if you're just starting out and you're getting one here, a couple there, then I think you can download CSV files, can't you, and then just sort of import across manually. The other question was, can Substack pre-schedule newsletters?
Yeah, you can schedule everything.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's it. Questions
Cool.
answered.
Great question, guys. Keep them coming. And thanks, Laura, for sharing. Okay, so on to communities. So for anyone building courses, events, a marketplace, these are all different types of community. There's 101 other examples, places to learn about mental health, places to connect people who have shared interests around cooking or fashion, whatever. These are all different types of community. And there's a brilliant tool that you can use to actually build and test these communities. And it's called Mighty Networks. Excuse me, left the S off the end of that. Mighty Networks, there we go. And this is what it looks like. Here's the platform. You just sign in using your email. But it does tons of cool stuff. So I wanted to kind of bring that to life again. So this is a community that I'm building at the moment, which is a founder community in Italy. So here's a landing page. Welcome to Doc3 Founders, Europe's leading network for student entrepreneurs. You can put an about section, about the program, our partners.
Slides from it. Jessica call Beth.
Sorry, was that a question?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay, I'll keep going. And then behind the scenes, this is what it looks like. This is an awesome platform. I've set this up as a free trial, but on the full version, you can post content, you can welcome people onto the platform. As they join the platform, you can ask them questions. What uni are you studying at? What foods do you like to eat? How much do you spend per week on food? You can track your members and see how many of them are there and where they're based. You can set up different events. So here are 2 events that I've set up, which are live events. You can also do online events, post them, schedule them, all sorts of stuff. And you can run online courses. So down in the left-hand menu, I put in some dummy ones. One of them is called Build Your Startup. You can create a community, course materials, and this can be live taught. So here are my different program modules about the program, MVP, business model lab, pitching your ideas, raising investment, and I can create courses against there very, very quickly. And then I've also set up some live events. I've got a live chat function here, so all of the different members can be like, hey, Ed, I wanted to check in and get your ideas or feedback on something. You can also put in resources. You can set up separate peer groups. So it might be for my food waste app, all retailers based in Hackney, where I live, or all people looking to save money on their bills. All of this stuff is done really quickly and easily, and you can drive.
Hi, darling. Did you have a nice time?
Dan,
Okay, I'll wait.
do you want to mute all again? I'll unmute just to remove the background noise. Awesome. Okay, so that is Mighty Networks. And now we want to move on to the really fun stuff, which is
Very quickly, sorry, Ed.
Yes.
A question came in from Paula, and this was actually something that I was going to add to it. Paula's asked, can it be a closed community linked to a Facebook group? And absolutely yes. It's obviously, so I've just set up a Facebook community. They're really being pushed at the minute, actually. So Facebook communities have got quite a lot of power and strength to them. Obviously, from a functionality perspective, it might be slightly different. You're less likely to have kind of as easy to see sort of course material set up and things like that. But the ultimate aim with all of this is, if people are opting into your Facebook group, then they're automatically saying, I'm interested in what it is that you do, or I'm interested in whatever it is that you sell. So you can take that as sort of as proof of a viable audience that you can ultimately sell to. So it's sort of the slight step kind of underneath the Mighty Networks, but obviously it's a free step for a start, because Mighty Networks does have a cost to it. And it is the sort of simpler way to get going. So yes, absolutely, that is another way of doing it. And I think that also answers Bashini's question as well. Do we need to pay to use those platforms? So Mighty Networks, yes, that does come at a cost. It's not a huge cost. At the end of the day, if you're going to be building this huge business and you're hoping to, get funding and all these sorts of different things, I believe off the top of my head, Ed, was it £70 to £90, something like that a month?
So there's different tiers. So for your basic community, it's more like $50 a month. If you want to build online courses into it, it's more like $100, but you get a 2-week trial period within that. So you can explore all of the different functionality. So again, start small, start on the basic plan, and build it out from there. But it is awesome. I use it for tons of different stuff. So, okay. I'm going to keep us going. There is just so much to cover today. So in 10 minutes or so, we'll have a quick break. But before that, I wanted to seed a few ideas about building no-code apps. And this is something I really love to do. But before we go any further, we wanted to show you how to build a logo. So, often people might spend hundreds of pounds on their logo, take loads of time prevaricating it over it. But the whole thing about today is, what can you do in 2 days or 2 hours, or in this case, 2 minutes? And using this tool called Namecheap, you can actually create a logo in 2 minutes. So this is the site called Namecheap. We'll share the link in a moment, but you can click Create New Logo. And then here I can say, my business is called Food Sharers, and the type of business is a marketplace. Then continue. And then basically here, you just pick the fonts that you like most. I like that one. I like that one. This one's kind of cool. I like that one too. This one, and last but not least, this one. And choose a color palette. And I think this one on the right is very vibrant. It makes me think of food. So I'm going to click on that. And then here, I can add a slogan. Save food, save money. Very simple. And then continue. And then here you can choose some icons. So if I search food and click search, here we go. Let's pick out some of these. I love that one. And I think this one's also kind of cool. So I've clicked on 2 different icons. And if I scroll to the bottom, click continue 2 icons, and hey presto, in less than 2 minutes, I have a whole ton of different icon ideas. So I love this pink one here. That's really beautiful. I love this one in sort of peppermint green. There's tons of cool ones here for me to pick from, but let's say I pick this pink one, click on that, and then it's not just a logo, it's also my business cards, my company t-shirts, my website design and my app design, all created in 2 minutes. And then down on the left-hand side, it's download, save, or share your logo. You just register or log in, and then you can download it straight onto your desktop. So very, very speedy. And what I love about this is all of these brilliant ideas we have on paper or in our heads, a logo brings it to life. It really makes it feel that your idea is real. And that's really important. Okay.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Are the logos copyright free?
These are copyright free.
Assume so, yeah, that's fine. And Natalia's asked, how big is the risk of competition stealing your idea while doing the smoke test and so on?
This question is probably the #1 most common question in this program. Every idea probably, or most ideas probably already exist in some way. That may sound surprising, but in most cases, it's true. The way ideas are successful are often because of you, your knowledge, your experience, the research you put into this, and most of all, how effectively you execute on things. It takes time to execute on things. If someone sees an idea that they like, they've got a full-time job, they might be parents, they might be studying, they just don't have time, experience, money, energy to go and do it. And maybe controversially, but I really think that an idea shared is an idea improved. If you hold on to your idea and don't tell anyone about it, it just can't be as successful because you're not testing it. So stop thinking and worrying about people stealing your ideas.
Yeah.
The one exception to that is that if you're working on a very complex, a piece of technology that could be patented, then that's a different story, because you want to make sure that you're able to get patent protection. That's a separate topic, but you can do a bit of Googling about how to do that.
Yeah, and I think I'd add to that as well that, even if somebody wanted to copy your idea, realistically, there are so many stages to get through. They might think it's a brilliant idea, but I mean, think about how many brilliant ideas are out there and how many people there are in the world and how many people are doing nothing about them. So in reality, when you share your idea, someone might go, yeah, that's brilliant, but they'd have to start from scratch for a start. You're already way ahead. They'd have to come up with all the information themselves. They'd have to figure it all out. They'd have to go through all these different steps, the time, the effort, and the likelihood of it being their passion as well, and requiring their commitment, it's so slim. So I completely agree with Ed. So long as you're not putting your ideas to a direct competitor that has more money, time, resources, etc., that would be potentially a silly thing to do. But if you're just sharing it around to sort of garner interest, then I don't think that we need to be worrying too much about competitors. One thing that Alan has asked is in terms of legal support to protect your idea. So are there any legal support sort of systems that you know of that can protect? And I'd probably add to that, at what stage would you do that?
Yes. So it's a great question. I would go to Seed Legal's website. They have tons of resources about patent protection. Very quick rule of thumb, budget 5 to 10K for patent protection, and you can put in an application, and it takes about 2 years. But putting in the application basically helps ring fence the idea even before you've got the patent approval. So you can secure the idea by putting in an application, even if you haven't got the approval yet. And I'll stop there because it's a big topic, but look at Seed Legals. Okay, so just before we break, I wanted to kind of tee up the next part of the workshop, which is about building no-code apps. And the first place to start when building an app is not coding. It is about design. That design is this fantastic intersection between products and the users whose needs we're looking to serve. If you get stuck into coding and back-end and complexity, you forget about the users. So you have to start in the most fundamental basic stuff, and that is about your goals and your value. So draft your goals and figure out where you want your users to get to. So let's imagine in our food waste app, I want to build an app that lets our users review different suppliers of food in the local area. So I've got a cafe down the road. I go and pick up croissants from there every evening. I want to feedback that I think they're like 4 out of 5 good. So I don't code. I don't get on my laptop. I get a piece of paper and a Sharpie pen, and I do something like this. I just draw different boxes of the different screens that make up what is called an app user flow. So this is your most basic kind of 101 around user experience design or UX design. You draw boxes and you think, what are the different touch points you take your users through to get to the outcome they want? A login page, a home page, search results, a detailed view, a review screen, and then review submitted. It's very simple, but you're always thinking about the goal you have in mind. You're also thinking, how can I make the UI, so the user interface, as simple as possible? You'll see that on each of these drawings, there's only maximum 3 boxes on each of them. Keep it simple. Don't overwhelm your users. And reduce the number of steps from beginning to end. A great way to learn about UX is just opening an app that you know and love and see what steps they take you through when you first download it, when you onboard, so sign up as a user, hit the home page, what functionality they have, and how they keep it as simple as possible. So find an app that you love and think, how do they make this so simple? And this is basically, we don't even need to share this template, but you just take boxes like this and sketch out your app flow. That is the place you want to start. So think about the goal of your app and just start drawing. Okay, so we're going to pause there and have a 5-minute comfort break. But in the meantime, stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to share that logo. I'm terrible at talking and doing stuff at the same time. That logo generator link in the chat now. My laptop stops crashing. Okay, in massive bold letters, there is the logo generator. We're going to take a 5-minute break. If you want to use some of that to play around with the logo generator, let's see if you can get the first version of your logo by the time we finish break. And we're going to be back here for hey guys, we are going to kick off in a couple of seconds. I've just posted in the chat, who's back in the room? Add your thumbs up reaction to see how many of you are back. It's always hard in these environments to know, who's on the call with cameras off and stuff. So it's good to see a whole load of you coming back from your break. And just while we're waiting, I think a couple of you had some questions. I can see some hands up. Or was that a thumbs up to say back in the room? If anyone has a question, feel free to unmute or write in the chat. Either is fine. Okay. Awesome. Who managed to create their first logo or a new logo? Write in the chat. Or you could even share your logo in the chat. get some feedback on your first ever logo.
Yeah, I'm keen to see them.
Yetunde made it, but refreshed and lost it. But worry not, it took you 2 minutes. You can take those 2 minutes again, and you can make it again, and maybe make it even better than last time. So not quite as bad as losing a 10,000 word dissertation or something.
Good question from Mia. How do you actually share? Is it literally just a cut and paste, or?
Do you know what? I've actually now logged out of my Namecheap. So,
oh, there we go. Akash has just done it. Wondering how that worked. Val Dynamics. Ooh, like it. Slick.
hey, really nice. Love that icon as well. Beautiful kind of filtered kind of green to blue. So yeah, you can screenshot and share the image on the chat if you'd like. But in the meantime, we are going to press on with the fantastic platform Glide. Okay, so we've talked about app goals, app user flows, and how to start sketching those out. And now we are going to look at this incredibly powerful platform called Glide. Now, at its fundamental level, the most basic level, building an app involves two things, an interaction between two things. The first is a database where you store all of your stuff. So in the case of the food sharing app, the retailers, the food they have available, their location, the name of the restaurant, etc. And then on the user side, their names, their profiles, etc. Maybe the restaurants they like the most. Building a database, which is called the back end of your app, is pretty hard, especially for people like me who are not back end developers. So we can do that thing differently. The back end is connected to a front end, which is all of the stuff you interact with. So the screens, how the screen flows are designed, the interactivity or the user interface, the little widgets, buttons, colors, typography, fonts, and it's the interaction between all of the stuff in your backend database and all of the stuff that's displayed in the front end that creates your app. So what Glide have done is said, well, how about we just let you build a database in a spreadsheet? Because most people know how to use those and they are super easy to manipulate. A spreadsheet is just a database. And let's make it even easier and build tons of templates and editing tools to be able to call or be able to display that information in the simplest form. So they have built this platform called Glide Apps that lets you build and display and users interact with actually really pretty complex information, and lets you distribute it, monetize it, so charge for the app. And as I tried out with Laura when we did this morning, I just emailed her a link to the app and Laura was able to open that app and download it onto her phone in 2 minutes. This is like crazy powerful stuff. Okay, so you can go onto this website. It is called glideapps.com. This is what it looks like on their homepage. And when you log in, it's free on the basic version. It looks a bit like this. So here is my dashboard and a bunch of projects that I've been working on. But to show you just how powerful this is, I can click New Project. You can do a page like a website or a mobile app. So I'm going to say my project is called Food Sharers. I'm going to try and do this in real time for you guys, and then click Glide App and then continue. and then select a source, Google Sheets, continue. And then should come up with a whole bunch of options, but my very old map is showing its age. So then I'm able to select a file and start building out my database. But an even easier way to do this is if you look on the left-hand menu, you can actually find templates. So if I click on template, okay, it looks like I've actually used too many templates. But anyway, let me show you. There's tons of templates on Glide for city guides, for Instagram style apps, and also like this one, a personal budget. So I can click on here, and hopefully, all being well, anyone on the call who uses something like Monzo or Starling Bank or Revolut will recognize some of the UI on here. This is a template all ready to go. So this is my budget tracker. It showed all of the stuff that I've spent in a given month. So this is the UI. I can click on it and it interacts. So I can add an expense. The laptop's being super slow today. And then here I can have all of these boxes to add an expense. So this is a very easy to use template for a budget tracker, but there are templates for 100+ different businesses. So your first port of call should be those templates. And when it comes to app design, my suggestion is always start behind the scenes, which is with your database. So at the top of Glide, you have 3 icons, a data editor here, the layout designer here, and then your settings here on the right-hand side. So let's start with the data editor. And this takes you behind the scenes into this back end. And here is just a Google Sheet. And I can just add or edit data here. So I can double click on this box. And if I want to display information for May, I just change the name of that to May. I can also change the amount spent in a month. I can add new rows. It is super, super easy to use. And flicking down on the left-hand side, here are the different items. So I can go in here and actually edit the expenditure items that are already listed on the app. I can add icons for the different types, different categories of expenditure. So pet care is this little prancing dog. I can make them recurring. There's tons of different functionality. And then I can also change the categories. So let's say instead of rent, and I own a flat, it might be this category is called mortgage. Change the category name to mortgage, change my monthly limit. I can tag different items against it, all sorts of stuff. This does take a bit of getting used to, but don't worry. You know, there's loads of how-to guides on YouTube and on the Glide website. And today is really about just kind of like opening the box to a few of these different tools to show you what's possible. And I wanted to show you an app that I actually built for my friend who is a personal trainer who wanted to create like a workouts app. And I built this like in an afternoon. It is very imperfect, but it's kind of a start for her to start prototyping her business. So her business is called Neo. Let's open this up. And again, starting with my data table here, I can list a whole bunch of different workouts. So there are push-ups, Superman's front planks, all of these different things I don't know anything about because I never go to the gym. But you know, I can put my instructions in there. I can embed images here very easily. I can edit the image there. A GIF, different types of instructions, a how-to video, so you can actually embed MP4s, tips, all sorts of stuff. So you're building this database in the back end. And then in the layout, you can then start changing the way this information is displayed. So here is my nice home page with the Neo brand. And here are these different exercises that I have put in the database. So I can click on shoulder triceps. And then here we go. Here are the different types of ways of exercising your triceps. And there's some workout tips. There's different guides to the different workouts, etc. Super, super easy to use. And if I go back, there's loads of different functionality here. But let's say on the home screen, at the moment, it's displayed in a particular way. But I can actually change how those workouts are displayed. Hopefully, as my laptop stops crashing. So here it's listed as a list. I can list it as a card, which is kind of like a Tinder swipe interface. I can list it as a map. So for my food sharing app, I could actually have a map of different suppliers and click on the one nearest to my flat. There's loads of really cool things that you can do. Then lastly, under settings, this is where you start actually bringing this closer to your audience. So under name and icon, you can actually click upload and upload your beautiful shiny new icon there. You can change the name of the app, the author, the description and tagline, also the appearance. So I want it to be in light mode. At the moment, it's very dark. I want to have different typography, different contrast. I can see how it looks on tablet and desktop. I can figure out how to capture user details. So with Google sign-on and single sign-on, I can help people share the app. So anyone with the link can share the app. There's sign-in screens, user agreements, data sources, and billing, which is where I can update my account with Glide and start paying a small amount per month, about $20 per month, and then I can actually send out my app and charge people to use it. So in the top right, I can click share. I can copy that app link or send the QR code, and literally you copy the app link, send it to people, and they can open that link and download it straight away to their homepage on their mobiles. So this is an incredibly powerful tool that I love using to very quickly build, test, and launch new apps.
Quick clarification question. You've shown that you can facilitate a point of sale with Glide. Is that only on the upgraded version? So you have to, I'm assuming, start paying for Glide before you can charge your users?
Yes.
And does it integrate with things like Stripe and PayPal and so forth?
Yeah, so you would have to select a payment provider to be able to transact.
Gotcha.
Stripe is one of them. Yeah.
Cool.
Any other questions at this point?
Oh, one more's just come in. Can you send it to Apple Store or the Play Store directly?
So that is a good question. It's not something I've ever done, but I believe there is that function that you can upload it onto the App Store. But you would again have to pay for the subscription, 20 quid a month or something.
And that's it. No more questions at the minute.
Cool. Okay. So there are no more questions. We're going to move on to how to test these fledgling ideas. And the testing part, MVPs do not matter. They have no purpose if you don't use them for testing. Their whole purpose is for you to learn quickly, fast, cheaply. So speak to people about your app. That might be in person, it might be through Zoom, but you want to let them play around with it. And there are two ways you can do that: supervised testing or unsupervised testing. So you can stand over their shoulder and see how they interact with it and make notes. Or you can let them get on with it for 5 minutes or a day or a week and get their feedback. Both, a combination of both is really powerful. But take them through the app. What do they find confusing? Do they understand it? Write notes. Don't force them to like it. Don't pitch why it's so good. Just step back and see what they do and see how they interact with it. And Laura and I have made this template for you to capture your feedback. So you can ask your users, what did you like? Ooh, I loved the fact that all of the workouts were categorized into muscle groups. What I would change? Well, I felt like the imagery wasn't as diverse as I would like, and I'd like you to include more diverse imagery on the app. Questions I have: when are you launching and how much will it cost? New ideas: how about you bring in live streaming so we could have live workout classes through the app? So you build the app, you do it in a very, 1% perfect way, but you start taking it out to people and capturing this invaluable feedback, because you will learn stuff that you had never ever thought about being in your kind of confirmation bubble of designing a product that you love. Go out and learn from people. Okay, any questions at the moment, Laura? Oh, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry. So I think I have answered one of them, unless I've misunderstood. So Mohammed said, are there free options? I just clarified that this was a free option, but obviously there are paid options as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just wondering whether he meant, are there any other free options? He suggested maybe Envision, where you can then charge out for free as well. I don't know if you know if that is an option. But yeah, my answer to that is that this is a free option. But obviously, as with a lot of different things, you have then paid options if you upgrade, and it gives you more functionality and so forth if you so desire. But everything that Ed's just shown you is available on the free option anyway. So pretty much everything you need, other than if you were to start going out and charging for your app. Constantinos has said, so Glide is essentially an app that shows data from Sheets on a user-friendly manner.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's basically it. It just gives you a really easy way of being able to build a basic app to send out. If you grow and you get bigger and it becomes a big thing, then you might want to start from scratch and have somebody actually build it. But like Ed said at the very beginning, that's going to cost you sort of 10, 15, 20,000 pounds, maybe even more, depending upon the complexity of the app that you're looking for. So this is just a really easy, free, quick way to start, to make sure that you've gathered enough data to know that it's worth you spending that 10, 15, 20, 30 grand on building something more elaborate.
Awesome. So at this point, we are going to pause and hand it over to you to start thinking about what this means for you and your business idea. So we've put together a very basic template for your action plan. So your MVP action plan. I want to test, for example, based on a short introduction to my idea, potential users will sign up for my newsletter. This helps qualify their intent to buy a future product. My expected result is 5% of users sign up, and my MVP could be a landing page on card with an integrated type form, a short promo video made with Veed, which is a very, very cool video editor that came out of King's College London, a sign up button. This is just a very simple way to think about your first MVP. But this always starts with, I want to test. It doesn't start with my MVP is, it starts with, I want to test. And my expected result is. And then you figure out what the MVP could be. So we are at exactly 5:30, and we're going to give you guys 5 minutes to work on this, to draft out what you want to test, what the expected results might be, and then some ideas of what your first MVP might look like. And we thought it might be helpful to put up that slide we used earlier with that kind of roadmap for building MVPs, just to give you guys a little bit of inspo. Okay, here we go. So those are kind of 6 stages that you might take to building an MVP of a kind of marketplace style product. As ever, if you have questions, if you're unclear on anything, if you want some prompts on how to build your MVP, if you think we maybe of these options, they don't quite cover what you need, let us know. That is what we're here for.
So Julian, you've got your hand up. Do you have a question at all? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
Hi, Laura. Yes. So I studied product design, and I've there's a mobile app which I've been working on developing for a while. So I've gone through a lot of the stages that you've just discussed, Ed, in getting that feedback from users. Something that I've done for over half a year now. I'm wondering, I used Adobe XD to do it, and I'm wondering, would you still recommend, going through that glide route?
No, so it sounds like you've got a fully functioning app. Is that right?
Yeah, just the front end on Adobe XD.
Okay, so you've got a front end.
Yeah,
it's great. Testing the front end is a fantastic place to start. But what Glide lets you do is build out the back end. So you actually have a fully functioning app that people can download onto their phones and start using.
Okay.
So, all of these are just options. We're not saying do this or do that, but this could be a really nice next step for you to actually give people a working app in the palms of their hands.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
No problem. And is it Fajiro? You've got a question as well. Would you like to unmute yourself? Or you can put it in the chat if easier.
Okay. So I have an idea that I've gone through all what you said. Very, very nice presentation today. But my idea, I'm still trying to think of how to come up with an MVP for what I have as an idea. So it's basically like a product that crawls the through the internet, looking to get information and present that information back on using data visualization. So basically, it looks for information about relevant skills and required required skills that are most trending in the marketplace currently, and tries to help students and employers as they go looking for job or try to look for workers. So basically, I'm thinking of how to actually bring out value proposition for that in an MVP, because I'll be using a lot of skills like natural language processing, which right now I don't know about. Some AI related technologies, and a lot of things which for right now I really don't know about. I can go about designing the front page, like you said, the landing page, and come up with something, but the core of the idea, the back end of the idea, the core would be difficult to present without some of that knowledge. So how do I do that? How do I shape something like that? So it's like I'm asking, how would I build Google without 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 writing any lines of code?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Veggie, sorry. So one of the hardest things with MVP is to kind of break down complexity into simplicity and still test value, for sure. And what you're doing is really exciting. It's ambitious. It involves, you know, a degree of complexity around the algorithms that you're looking to build. But there are ways of doing this. So the first thing is you want to test that there is demand for this. So that's where your landing page comes in, and you want to drive people to that landing page to test that there's appetite for this. Okay, that's the first step. The second, as someone just mentioned earlier in their question, that they'd been building out the wireframes, a mock-up of their app in Adobe. You can also, you know, just even sketch with pen and ink what your dashboards and analytics and results of that scraping will look like, to share that with people. Because then when you're doing a user test, you can say, this is the data we'll display to you. Is this the data you need? Is it useful? Is it giving the insights that you need or not? Is there something missing? So that's your second really valuable test. The third idea that I have is this idea of the Wizard of Oz. So presenting something as if all of your natural language processing, AI, machine learning is up and running, but actually doing it manually. And this is a really smart MVP. So for example, if you're looking at skill tracking on LinkedIn on some of the pro features, you can actually extract a lot of data from the platform. You can also use tools like the one I've just written in the chat called scrap.io, and that lets you scrape data off LinkedIn. You pull that down into a spreadsheet, and then you put together your dashboard. You know, you're calculating of 100 students, what percentage have got data science or machine learning or AI skills. I'm making stuff up, but you can build dashboards, you know, using relatively simple functions in Excel, turn that into a PDF document, and then you share it with your potential clients, and you've built something that gives them insights. But in the background, actually, the way you've done that is through manual use of Excel. Okay. But at each step, you are testing, do you like this? Do you need this? Do you care? How much will you pay for it? What's missing? How do I improve? Does that make sense?
Okay, thanks. That was very helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's perfect. So Akash, again, maybe some of the things I shared just then could be helpful. You know, the augmented reality is not the value necessarily that you're providing. It's like what you know, let's say it's a fashion AR app that you want to be able to point at a mirror, and then you can try out different outfits based on what's in your wardrobe using AR. I don't know, making something up. again, you could create something akin to that using some of the tools that we've talked about, and you're testing people's interaction within that without using, you know, ARKit or whatever libraries that you're using to build the augmented reality. So landing page that works for you, a promo video, doing a smoke test, potentially doing a Wizard of Oz manual version of what you're doing, plus, you know, a no-code app. At each stage, you will find ways to be able to test the value that you're trying to create, even if it's not AR. AR is not the value, it's what the AR creates or provides for your users. But great question. Any other questions?
None that have come through at the minute.
Cool. So we've had our 5 minutes on the MVP plan. Who would like to share their plan for their MVP? Go on. We've got a whole bunch of people on the call. Let's use this time to get some feedback. Why not?
Hello, can you hear
Hey,
me?
Sunday, yes. For the
Hi,
first
I'm in a really noisy gale, but yeah, hopefully you can hear me. So my idea for the MVP, I've made my logo again. What I was going to do is do like the Wizard of Oz technique and just like make out as if this is a functioning app. And then I have a community of people who represent my target audience, roughly about 30 people. So and it's like a closed WhatsApp group. I was thinking of initially sharing it with them and having them give me feedback, tweaking it a bit, and then having them share it with their network and sort of spread it initially by word of mouth and / WhatsApp, Instagram, etc. So yeah, that's the plan.
That's
Yeah.
And what would be a good kind of scientific outcome from your tests?
Money,
Money. Yeah.
investors. Yeah. Just attracting investors probably, and yeah, sort of getting ideas on how to make it better, how to make it more appealing, what could be tweaked from it. So just getting that audience feedback. However, so with my idea, there's like a B2B element, which is actually what will make me the money, and then there's the B2C element, which is like reaching out to the audience, if that makes any sense. So it's companies that I'm hoping to partner with that will pay me the subscription fee, not necessarily the audience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, that's sort of the part that I need to more so figure out. I know my audience and I know how to cater to them for the most part, but I don't have experience working B2B. So I need to like sort of build that network.
Yeah, this is great. You've really done a lot of thinking into how this is going to work. I think my thoughts on your test, the first outcome is figure out what they like, what they don't like, what they'd improve, questions, suggestions. That's right. And then you can go back, and this whole thing is iterative, right? Like you're on this kind of treadmill of new ideas, new tests, new improvements, right, to improve what you're doing. And then the next level beyond that is like, can I actually qualify that they're interested in this? So we've given them the app, and then, oh, actually, we're seeing that these guys are using the app every 4 days for 20 minutes. You're like, oh, that's cool. And actually 10% of users are sharing the share link with their friends. So we've got a 10% referral rate. And then of those referrals, you know, those people are using it once per week or something. And you're really measuring. Like, first of all, the kind of design and feature feedback, and then the kind of scientific, quantifiable actions and behaviors through the app that can validate that they really care and they really want it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then with that information, you can then go to your B2B audience and say, check this out. I only launched this a month ago. I've been testing it and these guys love it and I can prove it. That's a powerful thing to say.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks so much for putting your hand up and jumping in. Who would like to go next?
I
Natalia.
can go next.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, it's a little bit dark in here. The UK, sorry. I'm on a stage where I built an MVP, but because it has two components of B2B and B2C, we started with surveys, qualitative interviews of target audiences that would represent the business side of things, but also the end consumer side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And we created MVP and we are testing usability. I think as next step here really would be Kickstarter, but also a I forgot what's called, you presented today, when you have to do things on the background.
Oh, Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I suppose it would be a combination of these two things, because the idea it's to build a platform and to tackle mental health from a preventive lenses, but we need a partner. So actually we need an institution, whether it's a charity or educational institution. So the next step here would to find a partner and personalize the MVP to that partner, so that the institutions, people associated to that could be testing it via a Wizard of Oz, where we could do the background work to show what, in ideal world, what would like when things became automated. But then we are depending on establishing a partnership, which we are working towards. But then on the other hand, we could look into doing a Kickstarter to really, sell the idea. Imagine the world it would be like before actually focusing on building so much. So I'll stop talking.
That's great. That's really exciting. And, again, you've got, I think, a really great plan for taking this forward. I imagine when partnering with an institution, it takes longer to do the B2B than the B2C usually. So if you can get traction with your B2C and say, look, check this out. We've already got people using this, testing it, exploring it, and we know that they like it again. Then those conversations with the B2B partners and institutions become that much easier. And you can say, look, check this out. For 1 month only, we are doing a free pilot. And we are inviting you to be our pilot partner. As a result of this, you will, have this full set of research or insights completely for free. And all we ask in return, and this can be helpful, a testimonial, which you can then use for your marketing, and to use our logo, or to share 3 posts about us on LinkedIn and help us write a press release. So they pay you no money, there's barely any commitment from them, they get something that's really valuable, and they start helping with your marketing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Thank you.
Canny. Okay, so we're into our last 10 minutes. So we're going to pause there for now. And we had Robin, you had a question come through. If it's okay, we're going to see if we have time at the end to get to that. Otherwise, we can take it separately on LinkedIn or something. Just want to share the last few concepts. So can you all see my screen? Laura, can you see the screen? MVP?
No, can just see you at the minute.
Oh.
Very quick question, actually, which hopefully should be fairly easy to answer. Alan has asked, is it too late to change company name post-competition? I don't think it is it? I think you can change it at the point.
You can change company name anytime in the course of your startup life, although...
Yeah, we can see your screen now. That's fine.
All right, awesome. Okay, so we have thought about all of these MVPs. You guys have started drafting a plan for building those MVPs, which is ACE. And then the last step, which sometimes needs a bit of demystifying, is actually how do you go about launching your product? And the way me and Laura and the team have scaffolded these workshops is that everything is like accretive. Every workshop builds on something that we've done before, and hopefully to kind of move you forward through this process of startup development. So here, by this point, we've got a plan for building and testing our MVPs. And all the way along here, you want to be building a database of customers. And that starts with your user research. You interview people, you say, hey, can I add you to my mailing list? Oh, and you have 3 friends who might be interested. Tell me about them and refer me. You go out and test with people. You take their emails. You run a newsletter. You take their emails. You're building and building and building your network. And emails equal money. They equal growth. They are like the cornerstone of so many businesses these days. So we've created like a very basic CRM. It's not really a CRM, which stands for Customer Relationship Management System. It's just like a database to store your user emails. So if you need somewhere to store your user details, you can just shove them in a template like this.
And this is, just so that you know, this is the very, very, very basic version. There are, of course, CRM tools online, and you can use those to sort of collate them and send out. And they often have additional functionality in that, for example, you can set up email chains, so that you can, if you have like a free lead magnet, for example, or if you have a particular set of emails that you want to go out to people when they sign up to your group or whatever it may be, when they first come on board, you don't have to manually do it every single time. So this is a really good and easy way to sort of start it off, but obviously it's a manual thing. So every time you send out an email, you have to sort of copy and paste all of the emails across. But if you want to get a bit more technical, then there are plenty online that you can look at as well.
Yeah, for sure. So yes, to create your community, as I said, the people who build communities, they are the guys that win in startup world. And so you can use your email database to send out a newsletter with curated content, set up a community, Slack group, WhatsApp, Discord, Mighty Networks, create a following on social. This stuff is powerful. And how you can use these emails and your MVPs to start to generate hype and launch your product. Here are the steps that I think about when launching a product. First of all, what's called shipping small. You don't want to launch your first product with everything in it, all of the features, big investment, PR campaigns, because everything goes wrong the first time you launch. Not everything, but stuff goes wrong. So rather than trying to, sell to 1,000 people, try and sell to 10 and learn. So this idea of a soft launch, less of a big bang, it just minimizes risk and lets you learn in a safer environment. Next, you can build hype, get people excited. do a countdown on social media, 5 days to go, 4, 3, you know, that kind of thing. You can have a timer clock. You can have a little jigsaw puzzle to release your brand, and each day you release one part of the jigsaw puzzle to do a big reveal of your new product behind it. You can build hype through campaign videos, through crowdfunding platforms. There's tons of ways of doing that. As you get more evolved and you want to do a bigger launch, you might want to engage press, go on LinkedIn, find journalists, or write to the newspapers and publications directly. Getting on Product Hunt is always a really good idea. If you don't know Product Hunt, it is basically like a marketplace for new products. You can go on there, you can get your friends to upvote you, to share feedback and comments, and that helps to boost you up the platform and get you more in the public eye. You can run events. So let's say, again, my product is a food sharing app. I could run Eventbrite webinars or in-person events with panels of the founders of Olio and Too Good To Go, being like, hey, what are your hacks for saving money and saving food? You know, what are your insights here? And you get 100 people to that event. You've got their emails. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but you can use that to build your community and bring exposure into your brand. You could potentially run low budget paid ads, Facebook, Insta, TikTok, Google. The bills add up, and it's very hard to make a splash on paid advertising. This is just my opinion rather than advice to take, but I think when you start off, you want to really like hack your marketing rather than spend entire budgets on paid advertising, because it does get costly. Test and learn. And then lastly, drive referrals. How can you get one user to refer to another 5 and get that virality kind of built in and intrinsic to your marketing? Okay, so 2 minutes to go. We have included all of this in our startups step-by-step guide. We're going to share that in the chat alongside the slides.
One question that's just come through is, does the landing page give us how many of them have visited the page? I'm assuming that's sort of a back-end Google thing, and specifically the landing.
Yes, you will be able to see. Sorry, trying to do 2 things at once.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can set it up with Google Analytics to be able to track users, sources, traffic, volumes, conversions, stuff like that.
Perfect.
Dan said that the team will also share slides recording other content later in the week. So if you miss what's in the chat, don't worry, it will all be coming out later. Laura, what are your key takeaways from today?
Oh, that's a difficult one. There were quite a few, I think. I think that the main thing really to remember as an overarching thing is just to strip away the complexity, and to remember that you can make this as simple or as complicated as you need. And in reality, there's no point in going too complex before you've got all the data to show you that you're doing the right thing. So, like Ed said, I think at the very beginning, take a couple of hours, at best take the weekend, and create your MVP, get some information across. All of this is going to be hugely helpful, not just for yourself in terms of knowing whether this is a viable idea, building up all your contacts, but also from the position of, being in this competition and being able to present out, you're going to be in a much, much stronger position in front of the judges if you're able to sit there and say, this is what we've done and this is the data that we've got. So remember, it's all about the data. It's not about looking wholly pretty. You can change your logo, you can change how you do it. This is just a start, but don't overcomplicate it and don't let your limiting beliefs get in the way. That would be my summary, I think.
Yes, love it. Beliefs as well, for sure. And I think to add mine to that, and you definitely kind of touched on this, this thing about like imperfection. 1% perfect is good. As Reid Hoffman said, If it's too perfect, you've launched too late. Take a deep breath and feel, you know, that kind of anxiety of testing something out that you don't think is ready. That is good. That is good, because you're learning as quickly as possible. Do things cheaply. Challenge yourself on time and financial restraints. And most of all, think about this, that your product is not AI, hardware, natural language processing, augmented reality, deep tech, a particular type of fabric, a new food product, a course that takes tens of hours to create. That is the kind of engine to help build it. But your product is the value. It is the problem you solve. It's not the drill that you build, it's the 3-inch hole that your drill creates. Okay? So how do you create that value the cheapest and fastest way possible? And of